Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I wanted to have this conversation about TYT. I'm curious to see what people think about it. Um, TYT for the most part was considered this progressive news organization. I'd argue that TYT has pushed the conversation forward and was for the most part a vehicle for progressives. The reason why I want to talk about this is I haven't watched TYT in a while. Like it's been few and far between. Um, I know a lot of people broke part with them after the election thing, meaning they voted for Hillary. Now, assume for the moment they didn't go that route. Would people have? Would people feel the same way about it? Because there is a large amount of people who greatly hate that organization, like greatly dislike that organization. Would those people feel the same way if TYT didn't toe the line for Clinton? Meaning, if they didn't say Trump is going to eat your babies. You need to vote for Hillary Clinton. Yes, they cheated Sanders. I don't care if they cheated Sanders. I need you to vote for Hillary Clinton. If that wasn't the narrative that TYT went with, would those people have the same ire towards that organization? Let's complicate it a little bit. Leftists are distrustful of power by nature, by our very being, by our biology. We're distrustful of power. Conservatives are the opposite, in the sense that conservatives tend to have this mentality of falling in line. They tend to be more militaristic, fall in line attitude of sorts, meaning it's easy for them to coalesce around a strong man. Progressives inherently are distrustful of that. Just bitter, and don't take my word for it. Look at the organizations like Occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street wanted to have a completely decentralized structure. They didn't want to have any major power centers in that structure. Look at Progressive Independence Party. Look at the 20 different organizations that are out there now vying for progressivism or progressive thing. These people got to the point of saying we want to have our own organization because they were distrustful of the organizations that were already present. Either they didn't believe that those organizations were going to do what they needed to do, or they thought they could do better. And you can even make a case that says, or they believed in themselves, not necessarily those external organizations. Thing is, as I walked through the People's Summit, you had, let's say, 10, 15 groups. All those groups would have pretty much aligned in the same thing, meaning all those groups, for the most part, would agree on the same thing. If you line them up and you ask them one question after the next, they would agree on the majority of those questions. And yet, you have 10, 15 different groups who's vying to be the vehicle for progressives. I guess I'm making this point that in conservative politics, they fall in line easy. They have this authoritarian thing in their heads of power is good. I'm going to fall in line. I'm going to make myself part of the whole, and I'm going to function as a part of this machine. I have no issue at all functioning as part of this machine. Nothing in me tells me that this is wrong. If anything, it tells me that this is right. So yes, I am going to go with a strongman idea. In that sense, like it's just the way they function, regardless of what they say about freedom and everything else. Those guys tend to fall in line. It tend to fall in line. Progressives all over the place. It's like herding cats. There was this guy at the Left Forum who was a sociologist, and he was doing analysis on the differences between progressives or liberals and Republicans or conservatives. Now he's using this in the sense of a political spectrum of sorts, of saying what are the qualities associated with a particular part of the spectrum versus another. And he kind of backs this up in a sense with research also. Progressives tend to be like herding cats. Conservatives tend to fall in line. They're varying degrees, of course. People are spectrums. But they tend to fall in line. Which means that when it comes to a vote, or when it comes to voting, even though there may be less of the population, the fact that they're falling in line means they tend to be effective when they're trying to put those people in office. Now, let's go to progressives for the point. TYT became a media establishment unto themselves. How many other years? I think 10 years. Day after day after day after day. One news story after the next, after the next, after the next. Whatever you say about them, you have to admit, they have been doing this for years, and they have nearly 4 million subscribers for a reason. Part of it is consistency. Part of it, And they're the only narrative that was being put out for progressives themselves, meaning that progressives, when they aggregated around TYT. If you take my argument as true, that progressives have this issue with power, is it possible that the reason why people dislike TYT is because they're somewhat of a power center? Meaning because they've become somewhat of this establishment thing. And I'm not using establishment as pejorative, but just mean in regards to progressive media, they became an establishment unto themselves. That the very basis of progressivism, the thing that's in our heads of leftists, recoils against it. Totally recoils against it. Meaning any power center that you create as a progressive organization, any leftist organization, is inherently enraptured or inherently entrapped by its own devices. The very act of it becoming this major organization, this major news center, this major power center, means progressives for the most part are going to be distrustful of their organization. And in doing so, seek to undermine the organization to which they're distrustful of. Yes, we have reasons in the sense of TYT, but I'm making this point that if you exclude the Clinton thing, exclude the election, assume for the moment the election never happened, does that ire still exist for TYT? And if that answer is yes, that there was a contingent that was vastly against TYT, I hadn't been watching him, so I didn't realize that this was out there. Like, it kind of shocked me when I heard people taking this position of how much they dislike TYT. One of the other ones, I can't think of her name. She's, I can't think of her name. She's one of my subscribers. She also has a channel. She's also a YouTuber. She does like drawings and stuff like this. And she did this video and saying all these people need to come back together and everything else. But she was kind of making this point like, you guys have a lot of hate on this video. Like, there's a lot of people who greatly dislike you. And the people who were responding in the comments to one of her videos was mostly people who disliked and hated TYT. I'm asking, yes, the debacle with Clinton and the election and everything else. A, is there a way for TYT to redeem themselves? I don't know the answer to this. And again, I haven't watched. Ever since I've been doing my videos, I haven't had time to do anything else, including comments. Like, I used to enjoy writing comments and everything else, but it becomes harder to do when you're trying to balance work, health, marriage, and everything else. It just becomes a lot. So watching other YouTubers haven't necessarily been something that I've had a huge amount of time to do. Assuming for the moment, though, that TYT hadn't did the Hillary Clinton thing. Let's say that's off the table. Let's just project yourself to a position or to reality where that's off the table. They supported Sanders. Do they still get this amount of hate? And is some of this hate coming just because their organization, their media organization, their power center? Leftists are distrustful of power centers. Is this something to do with leftists in this case? Meaning, is the issues with TYT less about TYT? And yes, I know they have issues, but I'm saying, is a component of this, is a large component of this, how we as leftists view power centers and how we are distrustful of those power centers. And does this mean that any power center that's accrued from a leftist perspective is automatically in line to be undermined by this own ideology? I think it's a fair question. And it's a question I don't know the answer to. This is going to be short, so I'm going to leave it at that. The elevator video was way too long. And I'm sorry for the audio in that video. It's massively bad. I left my mic. Look, this trip has been a fuckfest, if I'm being honest. I left my microphone, I left my luggage, everything at home. I had to buy luggage and everything else when I got here. So I'll leave it at that. Alright guys, if you enjoyed the content, feel free to share, write, subscribe, and you can always support the work through Patreon or PayPal. Thank you.